good, whatever day it is. I'm not too sure when this is going to be out, but number 2 of 2025. It's crazy. Man, oh man, time is flying. It just doesn't stop for anything. If there's anybody out there that it's developed some sort of like time stopping device, reach out to me. Just DM me. I'll buy 2. Without further ado, I'm going to bring on my guest here because I ramble. Dr. Brain, right? Dr. Brain Baliwas.
Correct.
I just completely, I just, you go so fast. Like I talk about wanting to freeze time because spelling and grammar and all those things, like it misses my eye because I'm trying to do too many things at once. But how are you doing? Happy New Year to you. Thanks for coming on the show.
Happy New Year to you as well. Happy 2025. It's kind of hard to believe that it's that year. It's kind of crazy.
I know. We could the 20s, like we're rocking through the 20s here. We're going to hit the 30s. It's crazy. It doesn't stop. So you're in the heart of San Francisco. You're in one of the biggest medical buildings on the planet. I really want to dive into what are you doing to be seen amongst a sea of your colleagues, and let's just have a chat. I've been trying to get you on the show for a little bit, so thanks for finally for stopping by.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. I practice in San Francisco. I kind of grew up here in California, and I think even though I had plans to kind of move to different states and do different things, I decided to, be here. Don't mind my messy background. I'm in this.
Talk a little bit about what you got going on the board there, Brian.
We're actually currently expanding our office, and so part of that is bringing on new team members. We just took on a new office manager, and that meant kicking us out to this. This used to be our old lab. If you could see this room right now, you'd be like, wow, you guys are really living very glamorous here. This is a temporary cabinet. This is a temporary little drawer here that keeps all our stuff. It's not fun. It reminds me of like the Jeff Bezos early Amazon days, when he's in his garage.
I've seen the pictures. He's got the little, the board. He's got the felt pen.
That's what we're doing. There. Yeah. We're expanding in this giant building that you're talking about. It's 450 Sutter Street. It's kind of well known because we have 26 floors, and I want to say there's over 140, 150 dentists. It's hard to keep track of how many because of all the group practices and all the turnover. The practice is closing, the practice is opening. It's a huge dental medical ecosystem in this building.
How do you stand out? What are you doing? And I've talked to our mutual friend Presh about there's you're working a lot with the community and things like that, which I just think it's brilliant. But dive into that. How long have you been at the practice? What's gone well? What's your challenges? What do you find the biggest challenge?
Well, we bought the practice in 2019. Which is an amazing time because we've had to deal with transitioning from the previous doctor who unfortunately passed away. And then in 2020, there was this small thing that went around that kind of put a damper on things. I don't know if you guys know about it, but it was called COVID. I don't know if you guys had COVID.
No, we didn't. Yeah. Not up
here. But we had to deal with that. There's always something. And, what's interesting is you just asked, how do you stick out? And I love and hate using this analogy, but I'll use it and I'll tell you why I love and hate it. There is a Starbucks almost on every corner of San Francisco. Now, I love that analogy because it kind of signifies how dense this city is, meaning it's okay. A Starbucks can do well on one corner while it has, another Starbucks, half a block away, truly half a block away. I hate that analogy because it also implies this feeling of commodity, meaning coffee is coffee is coffee. And so one of the things we do is we try not to be like other dentists. And I think what we've done is we've focused on a different style of dentistry. And then it's not right, wrong, better or worse, but we focus on true prevention. of dental diseases and trying to find root causes of things. And I hate this term because it's kind of overused as well, but we do comprehensive care. We kind of look beyond single tooth, quadrant, even dentistry. We try to communicate that to patients, and I think there's some patients who value that, and that's what kind of keeps us going.
So new patient comes through the door. What's sort of your process involved in that? Is that sort of like a general your overall health thing? You're looking at sort of the big picture stuff.
Yeah, we're kind of big on patient experience, and when I say comprehensive, very thorough evaluation of things. So it starts even before they come to the office. It's them filling out paperwork. It's us, looking that over a week in advance. Let me make sure I don't have any patient names here. I've got, worksheets of patients where I'm filling out data, trying to figure out, okay, what are things we're going to focus on during this appointment? What are their goals? What are their needs? And then when they come in, it's, a tour of the office, kind of showing them around, talking about our philosophy. And again, a big conversation about, why are you here? What are you looking for? What are you looking for in dentistry? I think far too often, we expect patients to go in and it's about what can we provide them. I want to know what a patient's looking for. I want to know if it's right fit even, my goal is to educate that patient about all their different risk factors and um, disease processes, and come up with a personalized plan for them. So obviously it's a lot of data collection, it's a lot of analysis, and sometimes it's not even done on that same day. Sometimes I've got to sit kind of with all these sheets of paper on my desk, and kind of figure out, what is the best plan of action here? What are the other alternatives? What do I need to share with this patient so that they can make the best decisions for themselves? And am I okay with the fact that that decision may even be that I'm not their dentist? Believe it or not, I'm okay with that. I just want somebody, our ideal patient is somebody who wants to be educated about this stuff, wants to be on board, wants to take care of themselves, and is in agreement with the overall assessment and plan.
Are you seeing like a commonality of needs out there? Are you ever blown away by a patient that comes through that wants something unique? Or is it fairly generally like going through your data? Is it pretty consistent?
I I think it really just comes down to, let me put it this way. I kind of like the uniqueness. My
Yeah.
favorite is the person who goes, what do you mean by that? What
Yeah.
do I want out of dentistry? What are my goals? I've never been asked that. Because then you kind of explore possibilities that they weren't aware of, whether that be aesthetics that they weren't aware is possible, or maybe health things that they've always suffered through that now we can help find answers. You wouldn't believe how many people come in and they're like, yeah, I've got a cavity. Oh, what makes you say that? I just always have them. I feel it. That's just, I have soft teeth. I'm
Yeah.
just the type of person that every time I go to the dentist, I've got something going on. And it's like, well, let's dive into that. Would you like to be somebody who doesn't have something going on coming to the dentist? Are you how far are you willing to go to not have dental issues? Like, are you willing to talk about the products you use at home? Are you willing to audit your health care, to come in more frequently? Whatever it takes. That's fun. That's puzzle solving. That's problem solving. That's personalized care. And I think that's when you say, hey, how do you separate? I don't think we have a cookie cutter method. We have data collection that's
Mhm.
pretty standard for all patients, but it's the interpretation of that data and applying it to personalized needs that sticks out.
What are you using to capture this data? Is it just spreadsheets and taking a look at papers spread across your desk, or are you diving into your practice management and doing reporting? Like, what does that look like?
It's funny. I feel like when you're trying to create something or trying to push the envelope in an industry, sometimes resources aren't available to you.
Yeah.
So really, I know it sounds kind of archaic that I have paper on my desk, but this paper is a culmination of all the me and my business partner, Adam Miller, what we've taken and the experience that we've had, bringing new patients in and kind of taking in this data, the stuff that we learned in dental school in terms of the order that treatment plans should occur, and also what fits our workflow best. And so I would say that right now, and this has been in development for my entire career, really. But what's happening with it now is it's finally starting to become a little bit more tangible.
Right.
Could this be software? Could this be a spreadsheet? Absolutely. But sometimes you've got to work through the analog
Yeah,
to kind
I
of
agree.
develop and solidify that before it becomes something really kind of
There's something to
digital.
be said about having something tangible too, I suppose, right? So it feels like it's more accounted for, maybe.
Yeah, I think it also allows for a little bit more variability, change, adaptation, because we don't always have the answers. Like I said, right now we're pretty comfortable with this intake. I'm looking at it right now, and it's just an order of like, what is their chief concern? What are their goals? And then in terms of like hard data we're taking, what is their blood pressure? Do they need a med consult? What's their medical dental history? Do they have allergies? Personal information going into head and neck exam? Do they have emergency urgent needs that need to be addressed ASAP? And it just keeps going on into like airway assessments and whatnot. And I think I equate it with, and I'm sure everybody has read by now Checklist Manifesto. I equate it with complex things that need checklists, like flying a plane or performing a surgery. Um, we wanted something standardized that said, look, I know we've done this thousands of times, but we want to make sure we don't miss anything. Let's just get through this. And then now, when that patient's not at the office, when you said, what is it? How is it laid out? I've
Hmm.
got papers everywhere. I've got x-rays. I've got an intraoral scan. I've got a CBCT. I've got photos. In theory, that's where the work begins and the patient's not even here,
Hmm.
right? That's where I can sit down. I can put things into a shared cloud folder and bring on specialists. I can upload things to a lab and get designs. That's really the the meat and potatoes of what I think makes comprehensive treatment planning special. The challenge becomes, and I know you're a marketer, the challenge becomes how do we how do we communicate that to the patient? Because
Yeah.
to a patient, what they're used to is coming in, you look over some stuff for 5 to 10 minutes, and then you give your opinion,
Yeah.
right? And that's why if they don't like it, they go and get a second opinion or a
Hmm.
third
Hmm.
opinion. What we're trying to do is provide options, not opinions.
Yeah.
I want to be able to share things with you that I don't even agree with and give you the pros and cons.
Yeah.
And if you still want to go that way, awesome. I wish you luck. I wish you the best. Here are your records. Like, let's find you somebody who's going to do that.
Yeah. I think you're doing things right there. Yeah, it's the best case scenario.
And I promise you, I'm not just trying to be humble. I struggle to say right or wrong, meaning this dentistry isn't for everyone either, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if everybody in public health, for example, took this much time to go down this route, we would have huge backups in terms of access to care and whatnot. So there is still a need for different types of dentistry. I think we just kind of saw value in this, and we have a market that I think is willing to um, pay and pay a fee for the knowledge that and education we're providing, and so that's why we're doing it. I honestly don't think it's necessarily better than people who aren't doing stuff like this.
Well, I would argue that you're probably seeing a lot higher case acceptance because you're being transparent. Um, man, you go anywhere down the street right now, you're being sold something, right? Walking through the mall, like, um, I think it's kind of a breath of fresh air if it's, here's the facts, here are the options, this is what we can do, and if this isn't suited for you, then what did you say? How many folks are in the building?
Yeah, there's at least 140. Like that, I can
Yeah,
know for sure. I sat in the directory downstairs and counted. But yeah, you're right. There's other places for you to go.
yeah,
I'm
and in
certainly not
terms
the
of
dentist for
the patient to take in, you want to have partners in healthcare, I guess, right? You're a partner in their oral health, and that's essentially what you're aiming for.
it sounds selfish, but I just also want to share the accountability, right?
Yeah,
Like we as dentists sometimes we kind of take it on ourselves to, we put in a crown, and all of a sudden, it gets recurrent decay or needs to be replaced down the road. We're going, oh, what did we do? It's like, well, no, this patient is responsible as well. They've got a set of tasks and responsibilities that affect this crown just as much as the burrs and handpieces and prep techniques and materials we use in our hands.
Yeah.
So, along with that is the decision making. I think that this should happen. Do you agree? Do you have concerns? Let's discuss this. Awesome. Do you have any questions? Are we going through this journey together? Perfect.
Yeah.
So in a sense, any crown that gets delivered, it's not my crown and it's not the patient's crown. It's kind of like our crown, you
Yeah.
know?
I like that. That's a good way to sort of position things. Um, where are you finding the challenges then? Like just in general day to day, like what hurdles do you wish weren't there?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, not to get political, I am in California. Some of the biggest challenges have been government regulations, taxes, that kind of thing, trying to run a small business. We're kind of growing up in a time right now where anybody who's doing things successfully and trying and making money and growing a business, the term CEO now is evil. And so it's tough trying to battle against that. I think that's the biggest thing. But if we were to go the opposite way in terms of practice right now, I think the biggest challenge is because we're trying to do things a little non cookie cutter. Like I said before, we don't necessarily have the resources that are able to provide us what we need. I'll give you an example. We focus so much on patient experience, and here, San Francisco, huge tech city. Vancouver's very similar to this, where
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah.
Let's say you go get a coffee. Okay, let's go use the coffee analogy again. You go in, it's not unreasonable now for the person to give you that coffee and they flip that pad around, correct? And it asks for a tip and whatnot, but it's a very user-friendly experience. Yes or no, perfect. Here's your total. You click the button, and then it says, would you like a receipt? And would you like it emailed or would you like it printed out? And either one of those options, if you ask for it emailed, you actually get something that looks very similar to that screen sent to your email. So that way, if you ever need to look it up, you could search it. If it's a piece of paper, it's very easy to read. At our practice, if you were to ask for a receipt or an invoice, the dental software does not provide anything that is remotely close to the user experience that you get at any kind of restaurant, service, store, etc. I mean, even the term prophylaxis, and I know you're Canadian. I don't know if this is the same verbiage, but like, how many times do you get a patient that goes, what is that? And you're like, oh, that's your cleaning.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then it becomes like, well, why can't we? Why don't we have internally for the insurance, for the software, for the team, for the scheduling? It'll say prophylaxis, whatever. Fine. But why doesn't any of the software print me out a patient-friendly receipt that
Yeah.
says,
In layman's
yeah?
terms. Yeah.
And now some of these softwares have layman's terms, right?
Mhm.
So you can input that in, but it still doesn't give it that simplicity
Yeah.
that does like the store. So I'll give you one more example. You get a crown and build up, or you get a crown done. You get your invoice because you want to submit it to your FSA, HSA, or whatever. And again, the patients are like, wait a minute, it says uh, lithium disilicate crown. It says post core buildup, whatever it says. They don't know what that is. That's equivalent to you going to a restaurant and instead of it saying cheeseburger, it literally says bun 150,
Yeah.
patty 225,
Right.
lettuce.
Right.
Yeah, like, can we give patients something a little bit more user friendly so
There
that
you
they
go.
understand what they're paying for.
Somebody's listening to this that's going to make
I
it
hope.
happen.
I
And I
hope.
think like if we're on the conversation about software, I mean, sure you're going to invest in a piece of software, but arguably, like, are you going to utilize every piece of that software to get your ROI from it? Like, then there's so many things out in the market to choose from. I'm sure you're getting people knocking on your door daily saying, "Hey, this is the greatest thing since LightSpread. You should purchase this." But like looking at it, how does it improve your practice, right?
Yeah. No, that's it. That's it. So like I said, I hope somebody listens to this. I hope somebody goes, maybe something's out there that we're missing, and you can go, hey, actually, if you use this software, they've got a really cool way of printing out an invoice for your patients that's easy to read. Awesome. Send it on over. But right now, when that resource isn't available, you say, what are your challenges? I still want to provide that to our patients. So now, does that become us using Excel and pull downs and printing something out ourselves?
Right.
Like, how much of a pain is that?
Yeah, you don't want to create redundancies and extra work for the
Oh,
practice. Yeah,
exactly it. But nobody else is doing it. Nobody else is providing that.
there you
You know what
go. There's an opportunity for somebody out there, I'm sure.
I mean? Well, that's the other challenge in dentistry as a whole is the opportunity sounds great, except for the fact that coming up with that software, the ROI isn't there. There's so many dentists in this world, but it's not enough, I think, for somebody to invest in software that does this kind of stuff. And then on top of that, of the dentists that are there, how hard is it to get dentists to take on new software, to
Sure.
bring this on?
And the
Think about
team to buy
seniors.
into it, right? Teams to
Yeah,
buy into it and training. Somebody new comes to the practice, they've got to be trained. Like if there's some,
and
needs to support
sadly,
there.
how many dentists even care, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, right.
how many dentists go, yeah, I see what you're saying about the receipt thing, but my patients don't have an issue. They're okay. They can learn what a prophylaxis is and what a,
Right, right.
and that's the thing. I'm not saying it's bad, because if it was bad, we'd do something about it. I'm just saying it's not good enough.
It's particular to you and your needs, right? Yeah,
It's just not
absolutely.
good enough.
What are you feeling about some of these, like even the technology, where it's not open like it's not open platform where you have to buy all of their widgets in order to play with their technology. Like that must be extremely frustrating, especially now we're expanding on this digital age. We got 3D printing. You talked about CBCTs, like intraoral scanning. How important is it that all the technology like works together? And like if you wanted to buy like from one company versus the next company because you like an intraoral scanner and you like this other guy's CBCT, like how frustrating is that?
It's pros and cons. I don't think one's better than the other, because if you take a closed system, at least there's accountability and responsibility. So if your scanner doesn't talk to your 3D printer, for example, in a closed system, you can call that one company and say, "Hey, what's going on?" And they, in theory, play a little bit better together.
Sure.
You know, at the same point in time, yes, it does kind of suck that you've got to buy all their stuff, and those tend to be priced a little higher. And I get that. Now, the open, obviously, you can pick and choose what you want, but sometimes it's hard to do accountability and say, hey, here's what's causing this issue, or trying to figure out if they're compatible at all, or if file types are the same and are read the same way. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer, but this is I'm big on the free market and capitalism and whatnot, and so it's one of those things where the truth will come out, right? And
Yeah.
so I can name some very open systems and scanners that have policies in place and treat their customers terribly, you know. And I can also name some closed systems that people thought, oh my god, I would never go that route, but they're actually pretty handy. So you've got to figure out what works for you, and then in a sense vote with your dollars, right?
Yeah.
Things that
You're right.
are popular and useful, people will pay for it. If somebody comes up with a better system, hopefully we all switch and support that company.
What do you value the most when it comes to equipment? Is it the equipment and capabilities itself, or the support you get, the training you get. What do you like top three things? What do you value the most when you're looking at, purchasing something?
This has changed over my career. I think when I first got out of school, and I think the misconception everybody kind of gets led to is like you want the best, right? So like you want to buy a 3D printer. What's the best one?
Yeah.
What is the one that is quote unquote the best? And as I get a little, as I pass the decade mark in my career, what I really value now is a company that cares about me and that is ethical and does things right and that is there for the test of time. Because who cares if company A sells you the best 3D printer, but then in 2 years they come out with another 3D printer that's better and they stop servicing or stop creating parts for your first one. And you haven't even gotten the ROI out of it yet.
Yeah, right.
Well, that sucks, right? And so now, even from a dental material standpoint, anything, I love companies that are truly invested in us. They're looking out for the dentist. It's a win-win. It's not a predatory relationship. And so that's what I value more. And it tends to be okay, especially as technology catches up. You think about TVs. There was a time where we used to argue, no, plasma's a better TV. No,
Right.
it's LCD. No, now it's LED, right? Like
Yeah,
that's what
right,
it is.
right.
And now you go to the store and you can buy a TV that's solid for like $200. But
200
do you remember
bucks.
when that same
Yeah, yeah,
that same TV used to be like 3,000?
yeah, or more.
And there's a huge difference between the 3,000 and the 200.
Yeah,
Now, think like iPhone's the same way, right?
yeah.
We used to go, man, I got to get this iPhone 7 because it's got this new camera. And now you're like, hey, the 16 came out, and you're like, what's different about it?
Yeah.
And that the features, the technologies, the improvement isn't enough to justify it. So, you know, there we're at a time now where you think about CBCTs. Is the difference between the best and the worst CBCT that much different? Probably, if you take the extremes, but for the most part, they're all doing what you need them to do. So instead of going, well, I want the absolute best, I'm going, who provides the best service? Who, when I call, I can actually get on the horn with someone to help me.
Like a human, even.
That's it. Like, I
Yeah.
want service, I want support. Who has a history of not allowing you to sell their technology to other dentists?
Yeah.
Who has a history of quickly coming out with something new and stopping service here? Who has a subscription model? Who now is overcharging you monthly for these things?
Yeah.
Who has parts that aren't autoclavable and that they're disposable? So now they're making money off
Oh,
the.
that's $500 for 3 new tips, right? Yeah.
Those are the factors that we have to
Right.
take into account rather than, oh, is this accurate down to 25 microns? It's like,
Yeah.
I get that. I totally get. I'm not discrediting that at all. But in the end, I'm starting to lean towards people in companies who are here to help me,
Yeah. I'm not playing games.
not playing games, especially reps. I mean, oh my God, no offense. I know you worked
I
for
used
a
to be.
company.
I used to be. We won't say which one, but yeah.
And, somebody sent me this photo. They asked for a quote for a piece of equipment, and then they ended up buying a piece of equipment from somebody else. And that original person who gave them the quote was like, "Hey, why didn't you tell me? I could have matched. I could have lowered this to." Why didn't you then?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
why do I have to do my research to get you to give me your best price? I
Well,
get
it's
it. Like,
because
you
you're
get paid
being,
on commission,
and
you get paid
I've seen these guys out there. They're all, I'm not going to swear or anything on this, but they're greedy. They're
yeah.
greedy, and they're just waiting for the opportunity where you miss or you don't, send your quote to other folks, right? They take advantage of the trust. And I have a huge problem with that. That's
It's
kind
like
of one of
going
the
to buy
reasons
a
why.
car.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
guys have that in Canada where you go onto the lot and you're like, hey,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
interested in this car, but the price that's on the car is not actually the price. It
Yeah.
could be higher, it could be lower. This is why companies like Tesla are so cool. It's like, no, this is what the car costs. Do you want to buy it or not? And
Yeah.
if you do, go ahead and buy it. And if not, no big deal.
Yeah.
But why is it that like, oh, well, this scanner, let me shop it around and let me do this and can you include this? It's such a
Well,
everybody's
it's
taking advantage of us.
what's happening, and I'll kind of give you like a sort of a background. Is there's this old school mentality. It's the old school sales guy mentality where they're looking for margin in a product, and they are really trying to angle it so that they can make the maximum amount of profit. So where their ignorance lays is that guys like you and and your colleagues out there, like how quickly can you jump onto your phone and yes, make another phone call to a different company, but do your own research and find out whether or not this guy's trying to hose you. And
Yeah.
the ignorance that some of these idiots have out there, especially when it comes to these guys marketing these products, oh man, I've got stories that I won't get into because it drives me bonkers. It's like, do you guys not have like, you guys are running the industry like it's all about taking care of you guys on the front line. Yes, the patient is the all like dealing with patient outcome is the your goal, but we got to take care of you so that you can take care of the patients, and the better patient experience, the more patients are coming back, and we're all rewarded because of it.
Totally.
That should be floated out there rather than like let's discontinue a product and bring out the new one and not make parts for this old guy available anymore. I just like that's where I have an issue. Like I and I see that across, like I've seen it across these, and like it's not everybody, like it's not every company.
Not everybody, but
It's
that's
not
why
everybody.
I choose the ones who do that less, I should say.
Yeah.
There's a really
And
cool documentary on Netflix called Buy Now. They kind
okay.
of talk about this planned obsolescence, how, and this is true. Like if you go into my dad's kitchen, if I go home to my original house and I go into his kitchen, I'll never forget that. I know exactly where it is. If you open this drawer, he's got this hand mixer. Do you know what a hand mixer is?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
got
yeah,
like
yeah.
two little
The
paddles and
two
it's
little guys at spin. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, okay. You beat eggs with it or
Yep.
cake
Make
mix
a
or
cake.
whatever.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But he has it and it kind of clicks into this little thing and it's got a place for the little okay. This thing was built in the 80s. It's like I think it was made by like Oster or who knows. I forget the brand, Black and Decker.
Sure,
Uh,
that works.
but this thing runs like a champ. And if you look at it, if you needed to fix it, it's got screws so you can unscrew it and easily open it and see what's inside
Yeah,
and if a wire comes loose, you can solder it back. It's this thing runs and it's never. I can't remember the last time my dad's had to like fix it at all or do anything. If you buy a hand mixer today,
oh, it's gonna. Yeah, I know where you're
what
going, but I'll let you
expect
finish.
to break? I bought an air fryer 2 years ago when that air fryer thing was kind of like a fad, and all of a sudden, like the thing's chipping, it stops
Oh, I know.
working. It's a disposable air fryer, which is wild.
It's wild. Yeah,
So that's kind of what's happening, I think, with dentistry now is, you get these companies, the focus is not on building a product that lasts.
yeah,
The focus is building on a product that works well in the short term that may need to be replaced or something that you can sell excess disposable things that attachments, whatever, to kind of build up sales. But even these companies now they're not selling parts. I won't say which company, but we've had a couple things where we call them like, "Hey, I just need this little hose that goes into your whatever," and they're like, "Oh, well, you don't sell that separately. You don't sell that separately? Like
yeah. You're gonna have their tech guy come out and charge you $1,000 to show
that's
up,
it."
and yeah,
Or these things that have a very instead of screws holding it in, it's got tabs and little fragile things. So that way, if you take it apart, there's a good chance that you break it, or something's glued, so you
yeah,
can't take it apart at all. It doesn't make sense.
yeah. And unfortunately, I think like we go back to the conversation about the TV. Like everything's built to break down, and then you got to buy the new one. That's the way it's going, and where it's where it became apparent, like this is ringing home for me. It's like the bloody well Christmas lights, man. Like every year, I gotta go buy another two strings of bloody Christmas lights. It drives me nuts. It
It's
almost
great.
makes me not want to decorate Christmas anymore because like I just remember as a kid going and putting the same string of lights up for like 10 years. And now, like, after 2 years, you got to go and chuck. Like, how much waste are we making, too? Which is,
That's
another
it. Watch
conversation.
the documentary.
Yeah,
Watch the
there.
documentary.
Yeah,
You
I'll
enjoy
check it out.
it.
And what is it called, babe?
It's called Buy Now.
Buy Now. Okay. And it discusses all this stuff. Yeah.
Correct.
I'm just going to get so mad. Ain't like I can just sense it.
Oh yeah.
Great. Um, Now that we've covered all the sort of like the sticky points, like what do you love? What do you love about being in this industry?
I like connecting with people. Honestly, I mean, it's so fun. I this week I had a patient who I remember when she was dating her now husband. You know, when they were not even married, and now they just had a kid this past month, and she's exhausted taking care of this newborn. I think that's cool. You know, following along with different stories. I've got a guy yesterday who I met him through his friend group, and they all share the same provider. So when one person goes and has a good experience, they get everybody to switch, and you know, hearing about their cocktail parties that they have, and it's that aspect of it. It's like seeing people's lives in these little 6 month flip books, you know,
Yeah,
like I get to see just kind of highlights along the way, and then also kind of running into these same people in my community. um, I was at the Chinatown night market the other day. We had a new mayor. He had an inauguration there. Ran into a few patients, and it was kind of fun having them say, "Oh my gosh, hey!" And then they're with friends, and they go, "This is my dentist. He's great. He's got a practice here in Union Square." And that's the part that's really awesome. And I think as a dentist, we're fortunate to be able to provide people with that level of care.
and
I
that's
don't know.
what.
I don't know how many people get excited over their mechanic or their banker or any of that.
Yeah, not banker, that's for sure.
Yes, certainly
Yeah,
not.
yeah, it's a people business.
Yeah, and so that's my favorite aspect of it.
Yeah, and if you're doing the right things, like you have a positive impact on people's lives. Like it's an important thing. And in terms of in the medical world, you're an advocate for their health. Like, and you're
Totally.
seeing them on a more frequent, hopefully every 6 months, right? And even sooner than that for a perio program. But um, patient wise, like what what are some really cool stories? Like if there's one last year that's in the top of your mind that you've impacted somebody's life. Like, is there anything that pops in your mind?
Yeah, I had a patient who's super phobic. Grew up in, I want to say, Germany, and had teeth pulled. This is what he remembers. I don't know if this actually happened, but he said he had teeth pulled as a kid with no anesthesia. Same thing happened to his brother, and now he and his brother are just very not about the dentist. I met him through an anesthesiologist friend. Um, he referred him to me, and we did some restorative work to just kind of get his foot in the door of dentistry. I had a really good experience with that. We bought him some time. A lot of the stuff that we did that day, I let him know, hey, we bought you some time, but these teeth that are remaining because you haven't been in and because of a bunch of other risk factors, they're not going to be for your forever teeth. And you know, for 4 or 5 years, he came in regularly, got them cleaned, and I'm pretty sure a good 6 or 7 years he maintained the set of teeth. And then came the time where a few little areas started to break down. He had some recurrent decay, and it was time for him to get a all on four up top. I think we had four implants up there, and he was really nervous about it. And he had lived his life, most of his life, having a removable partial denture, one that he never took off in front of his wife. Actually, his wife, he said his wife has never seen him without that. He slept with it, even though you're not supposed to, that kind of thing. And long story short, after the surgery, after restoring him, after getting the finals in, I mean, the guy's just so happy. He periodically sends pictures to the office. He texts them of, hey, this is, thanks, this is my first steak that I'm having. I'm with my daughter, and we took her out to dinner to celebrate, and just a bunch of those. Like, hey, I'm out with friends. Here's this. I'm out in Mexico. Here's what's going on. Um, it's kind of fun getting somebody who used to be phobic, full on needed an anesthesiologist to come in, and now he comes in and he doesn't even need nitrous, to tell you the truth. He's a stand up guy, and he's one of my favorite patients.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. That's a great story. You think about that, right? And somebody that is maybe a borderline dental cripple or cripple, like the brain turns that off, right? Like you don't know what you don't know, and like finally, and like there's so many people that are afraid of coming into the dentist too.
Totally,
Yeah,
totally.
yeah.
So yeah,
As
it's fun. It's fun meeting patients who um, you can change their viewpoint on dentistry as a whole. I mean, it's fun giving them a good experience and kind of letting them know that it is possible. It's possible to go to the dentist and have it be a positive experience.
and it sounds like you've set up your practice for that. You've set it up as this educational place of transparency. There's no smoke and mirrors. You're obviously after the best interest, because if it's not something that you can fulfill in your practice, they're going somewhere else. And I think
Totally
kudos to you to be doing the right thing. I think
appreciate it.
that's where we're supposed to, like, we're as an industry. I think that's, if more folks were focused on that, I think there'd be more people going to the dentist.
Awesome.
Yeah. Any final thoughts? And thank you so much for your
No,
time.
I appreciate you. No, that's what I got going on here. If you're ever in San Francisco, feel free to stop by. If you're ever visiting, our website's got some of our favorite restaurants, bars, um, sushi spots. So feel free to check out our website for that. There's not a lot of dentistry on there, but there certainly is a lot of San Francisco fun things to do.
And now that's sort of like your marketing, how you've set up, like you've collaborated with locals. Like I think that's pretty smart.
Yeah, it just kind of goes in. It kind of coincides with our idea of educating people. Our thing was, do we set up a website full of, hey, this is what Invisalign is, and this is what a crown is, and this is a veneer. People get that elsewhere, and I
Yeah,
didn't. I wanted to make a functional website, Adam, and I really wanted to put out a site that people would visit and kind of have fun doing. And so, if you look on there, it's a little different.
awesome. I love it. Thanks again for your time. Really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
no worries. Appreciate you.
Yeah, we'll chat soon. Hopefully, you'll come back on sometime.
Done. Thanks. Uh, yeah, no worries. Cool. Well, I appreciate it.